Hey guys, this is Morgan. This is part 3 of my Amberlynn Reid doesn't have bipolar video. So I didn't want you to think that I was wearing the same outfit and the same hairdo and on different days. I just made multiple videos for YouTube. But I could not, for some reason, put Amberlynn Reid in the title and put part 1, 2, and 3. I'm new to this, so I'm going to have to learn. There's a lot for me to learn. I'm still trying to figure out where to look. Should I look in the camera? Should I look down? I'm not sure. I'm learning. And I'm going to get a GoPro and hopefully get, as I learn, I can get better equipment and learn exactly what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to start taking notes. But when I try to show off my leg, I didn't get the leg in the shot. So I'm going to try again. It's hard to see now because it's healed up so well. When it first happened, it was really bad. I mean, like, it was a huge indention in my leg. Like, it was deep, very deep, but it's healed up remarkably. I'm very surprised that it healed so well, but I'm going to try to I'm going to try to show it to you. It's right here. It's right there. That's where my leg was hanging off. It was broken too, and it was hanging off by just some flesh. And then, of course, hold on. Sorry about that. This is my wrist from where I cut my wrist so many times. And the doctors told me that if I cut my wrist anymore, that they wouldn't be able to save me. That I'd bleed out and I'd die. But yeah, I wanted to post, edit the videos, part 1, part 2, part 3, but it wouldn't allow me to do that with Amberlynn. I don't know. I'm just learning. So, but there will be a lot more videos to come because I have so many stories and so much to talk about concerning Amberlynn and her newly diagnosed OCD and bipolar, and like, which bipolar was she diagnosed with? Was it bipolar 1, 2, mixed bipolar? I mean, she didn't say. So I'm not sure which one she was diagnosed with. But anyway, I also was wanting to tell you about, I did touch on the drugs when I was manic, how I would shoot heroin. Well, actually, I didn't shoot heroin. I would be at a party and someone would be shooting up heroin, and they would ask me if I wanted to shoot heroin, and they would shoot me up. I never got addicted, thank God. I never got addicted to it, but I did shoot it up. And I did a lot of cocaine. I never got addicted to it. It wasn't like I did it every day. But, when I was manic, if somebody offered me a drug, I didn't hesitate to take the drug. I was very nonchalant about taking drugs because I was manic. And when you're manic, you don't think rationally. You think you're untouchable. You think that you can fly. You think that you're a queen. I mean, I literally thought I was a queen. I had grandiose idealations. I really believed that I was this amazing goddess, amazing, just, it's so insane now that I look back on it. that it's terrifying to think that I was so out of touch with reality, because my bipolar would go untreated and I would go into a psychosis, which just means you're delusional. You have lost touch with reality. You no longer have, touch with reality. So that's what that means. But, and I also touched on the fact that I've been married 7 times, which is not uncommon with people with bipolar. We tend to marry multiple times and divorce multiple times. That's not uncommon for someone with bipolar. And in the industry that I was in, it was unrealistic expectations. The modeling industry, I was 116, 110 pounds, and everything had to be perfect. Your skin, your hair, your eyelashes, your tan, everything had to be perfect. Your weight, you had to be skin and bones. It was just unrealistic expectations, which took years for me to come to terms with the fact that that was unrealistic. It's unrealistic to look like that. You have to be anorexic or have some other eating disorder to maintain that light, how do I say this? That small of a body weight. I mean, I was extremely, extremely skinny. I was 5'7", and I weighed 110 to 116 pounds. And that is extremely skinny. Very thin. I actually went and had breast implants done while I was awake. I was not asleep when I had it done. I had a twilight sleep, which is sort of like you kind of come in and out of consciousness. But I was conscious enough to tell the plastic surgeon to let me off the operating table so I could go pee. And of course that wasn't going to happen because, he was in the middle of my surgery, and he told me that do you want your breast to look perfect? And I said yes. And he said, well, then you need to lay back down, and I'm sure they gave me some drugs to put me back to sleep. But I've also had fat taken out of my stomach and put into my lips to make my lips look bigger. Well, that lasted for about a year, and then my lips, you can tell they're not full anymore. They're not big and full like they were when I first had the surgery done. But this is when I was really just I had to look excellent. I had to look my very, very best. And I still like to look nice. I still like to put on makeup. I still like to fix my hair. I still like to dress nice. Even though I'm 46 years old, I still want to look attractive. I have a 28-year-old daughter, and I have a 25-year-old son. And my son, unfortunately, is bipolar. And he's doing okay. I haven't spoken to him in 2 months because he went into a manic episode and cursed me out and called me names, and I just personally can't allow that. He's not allowed to talk to me that way. So I do text him and tell him that I love him, and that no matter what, I will always love him, and that I'm always going to be here for him. And if he ever wants to talk, I'm here. I've tried to get in touch with him. I've tried to, smooth things over, but he's got to realize that he can't talk to me that way. And he needs to be on medication, although he doesn't believe he needs it. He's just like me, didn't believe, but he's not like me. He's not on drugs. He's not doing the things I was doing. Nothing like what I was doing. So, I was really bad off. And like I said before, I married 7 men. One of them I met in a casino with a friend of mine. She met his best friend, and I met him. His name was Jeff Fetter. And I knew him for about 2 days, and then we went and married. We got married. And then I wanted to annul it, and I could have annulled it had I known. I could have called my lawyer and asked my lawyer what to do in the situation I was in, but I was too embarrassed. I was too ashamed. So, but legally, I could have went to the courthouse by myself and just annulled that marriage. But he wanted to stay married to me because he wanted my money. He wanted my money, and he wanted to use me for his gambling addiction. He had a gambling addiction, and he used me for money. But, you know, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I thought I was normal. I really honestly did. I thought I had problems with depression, but I never ever thought I had bipolar. Never. I never dreamed I had bipolar. I thought I thought I was normal, other than some depression. And like I said before, I was very violent whenever someone in my family or the police or a psychiatrist would have me admitted into the mental institution. I would fight, and they would have to strap me down and give me drugs in order to knock me out and keep me calm. But, I mean, what makes me so upset about Amberlynn Reid is that she's making a mockery of such a seriously dangerous mental illness. Schizophrenia and bipolar are 2 of the horriblest diseases to have. I mean, it literally is hell. I mean, it literally is hell having these. I don't know about schizophrenia because I don't have it, but I have a nephew that does, and it's scary. And while I was in different mental institutions, I met people with schizophrenia, and I cannot imagine. I mean, I lost touch with reality and thought things that was happening that weren't really happening. But these people literally stay out of touch with reality unless they're on their medication. But, I mean, it's sad. It's so sad. And for Amberlynn Reid to make a mockery of bipolar and to laugh about it and make a sing-song rhyme about getting her medication filled so she can take care of her mental health, and then laugh about it, it literally pisses me off to no end. I can't describe how angry it makes me, because I know from living with it for so long how many of my friends that I've known through the mental institution who have killed themselves because of bipolar, who have committed suicide. I literally just lost a friend just last week. She jumped from a 7-story balcony to her death because she was bipolar and couldn't live with it anymore. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. She literally jumped from a 7-story balcony to her death with her 12 and 14-year-old children there. I'm in shock. I don't know why I'm in shock, because I'm numb to this now. I'm sad. I cry. I mourn, and then 2 months later, another friend will commit suicide. It is a very dangerous disease to have, because you just want it to stop. You want to be normal so bad. You don't want to have these mood swings, which I'm grateful and I'm so thankful for the past 4 years that I have not had any more episodes. The medication that I'm on is called Latuda, and it has saved my life. It literally has saved my life. It's $1,500 a month, but through the pharmaceutical company and through my psychiatrist, I don't pay anything. I get it for free. But could you imagine if I had to pay that each month? $1,500 a month for a 30-day prescription? That's impossible. I couldn't afford it. But thank God I get it for free. And I take it religiously. I never miss a dose. I never miss an appointment with my psychiatrist. I never miss an appointment with my therapist. I go to all appointments, and I'm completely 100% honest with all of my therapists, my psychiatrist, everyone. My husband, I tell him exactly, how I'm feeling. Most of the time, I'm doing fine. I do fine. But there is those days when I just don't feel like getting out of bed. And it's not so much that I'm depressed. It's just that I've lost motivation. You do lose some motivation. There are side effects to this medication. Diabetes is one. Uncontrollable muscle movements, and they don't go away once you have it. I don't know the name of it. I'll look it up and I'll let you know what it's called. But once you have it, it's for life. It's where your muscles just involuntarily move on their own, and you can't control them. So that's a horrible thought, to have that. I just don't want that. And then there's another side effect of a rash, and thank God I didn't get that. But it's a rash, and if you get it, it's deadly. You have to go straight to the ER. Then there's another side effect of weight gain. It does make you gain weight. You do gain weight. You crave carbs. And you want to eat. It makes you hungry. And that's one thing I have been battling, because I went from 116 pounds to 156 pounds. So I have put on a lot of weight. A lot. And I'm not happy with it. And I'm going to lose 50 pounds. If it's the last thing I do, I will lose that weight. Because I'm not going to continue to be this big. But, yeah, Amberlynn Reid, I'd like to see her scars. I'd like to hear her stories about when she was manic. I'd like to know if she woke up in a hotel room next to a strange man, naked, not knowing how she got there and not knowing who the man was. Now, I'm not saying every single time I didn't know or remember how I got there. There were times that I remembered, and I was manic. I would stay manic, and I would remember, but I was delusional. I had thoughts of grandeur, and I was just delusional. So, it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me at all. And I went through marriages like changing my clothes. Now, I got lucky almost 16 years ago and married a wonderful, wonderful man who put up with hell, living hell, because I was a nightmare when he met me. I had a drinking problem. I was delusional. I was unmedicated. It took many, many, many trips in and out of the mental institution. They kept telling me I was bipolar over and over and over and over. And of course, I didn't want to believe them. I didn't want to do anything about it because I loved the mania. Being manic was fun until I ended up doing something crazy and went to jail or went to a mental institution. That's another thing. I went to jail a lot for public intoxication, terroristic threatening, because I would threaten to kill people. It's embarrassing. It's so embarrassing to think that I behaved in that way. I tried so hard when I was manic to stay normal, but you have no control. It literally hijacks your brain. You have no control over your brain. None. None. Your brain has a life of its own, and when it decides to be manic, you're going to do what you think in your manic state is a great idea. You know, I thought that doing a line of coke was nothing. I thought doing 20 lines of coke was nothing. I thought driving at 150 miles an hour was no big deal on the interstate. I mean, I just did. There's some things I did that I'm too embarrassed to say. I might in the future talk about it. But there's some things I did that I'm just literally too embarrassed to talk about. It's sexual and graphic, and there's nudity involved, and I'm not proud of it. But I'll just tell you one. I literally posed for Playboy magazine while I was manic. Yeah, I did. Yep. So that's one thing I did that I'm ashamed of. That I'm very ashamed of. I was 26 when I did that. And then, like I said before, when I was depressed, I was severely depressed. And the depressions would go on for months. Not weeks, months. Sometimes I would get lucky and the depression would last a month, and then I'd become manic. And it was very, very, very rare for me to be in between. There was some times that I would go into remission and I would have a normal episode where I was neither manic nor depressed, but that was very, very rare. So, you know, Amberlynn, Reid, I hope and pray that you see this video, because I want you to understand what bipolar really is like, and I want you to really look at your life, look at your behavior, and tell me, does your life sound like you have bipolar? Because I've been watching you for 4 years, and I have not one time ever seen you look or act like you were manic. Not one time. Not once. Not one time have I seen it. And I hate to say this because it's going to sound cruel, but when you're bipolar, 9 times out of 10, you're thin. You're not fat. You're thin because you're on the go 24/7. You're just going. I went to England with my mother while I was manic. She didn't know I was manic, or maybe she did. My mother was murdered. Someone broke into her home and strangled her, raped her, bit her all over her body, broke every rib in her body, and that happened when I was 25. So I went into a major depression. Then I went into a manic episode, and that's when I posed in Playboy. I had my pictures sent in and they selected me, and I was Miss December. But I'm trying to remember. It was 2001 or 2002, I believe, when I posted in Playboy. I'm not exactly sure because my daughter's friends came over for a pool party, and she showed them the different magazines I posed in, and they stowed them. So I'm not even sure what year it was, but I'm thinking that that was about the year 2001, 2002, something like that. But I was Miss December, and I lost 30 pounds after my mother died, and I was down to 98 pounds. And I'm sure there's bipolar people out there that are overweight and they're untreated, but not over 600 pounds or 600 pounds or whatever she weighs now, because she won't get on a scale and show us. But I just don't know very many bipolar people who are her weight, because when you're manic, you can't stop. You literally don't sleep. You don't eat. You just go, 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 and no one can stand to be around you. The only people that can hardly stand to be around you are other people who are real intense and high strung. And you can be charming, you can be sexy, you can be a lot of good qualities when you're manic. It's not always, police being called. That's usually at the end of your manic episode. When you first start out with your mania, you start out happy-go-lucky, in a good mood, but eventually, as the mania wears on, you become irritable, you become delusional, you start becoming paranoid, different things like that. And then eventually people start noticing that you're not right. And then you start behaving in really violent or insane ways, and they end up calling the police on you, or your family calls the police. It's, I've had it both ways. And then they take you to a mental institution. But it took me going to a state-run mental institution to finally realize that there really was something wrong with me, that I really, truly had a mental illness, and that I must take it seriously, take the medication, go to every single one of my psychiatrist appointments without fail, and go to every one of my therapist appointments. I don't miss any of them. But I'm married to a wonderful man. He is 72. There is a 25-year age gap between us, but we get along great. We get along wonderful. And another thing that pisses me off about Amberlynn Reid is that she takes the Walmart mobility scooters. While me and my husband get to Walmart, we also live in Kentucky. We live in western Kentucky. But I don't know exactly where Amberlynn lives. I just know it's Kentucky. But when we get there, there's no mobility scooters, because I look around and I see all these young, fat, lazy people using them. I take that back. Not all of them are lazy. Some of them really do have disabilities that they need to use the mobility scooter. But a large majority of them are very overweight, and they're just lazy, and they don't want to walk. And that's why they're so fat, because they're immobile. They won't walk, they won't exercise, and they won't cut down on the portions of food they eat, and they won't eat the right food. They will eat fast food. They will eat greasy food. They barely eat vegetables. They barely eat fruit. They hardly ever drink water. They drink sodas, and they usually drink, they say I've seen them where like Amberlynn Reid tries to say that she drinks diet soda. I've seen her not, she drinks regular soda. I've seen that. She doesn't drink diet soda all the time. I've seen her drink regular Sprite. And then as far as her childhood, I had a horrible childhood. My mother was murdered. But before that, my mother and father were both horrible alcoholics. And they didn't know how to, they just drank all the time. And they would leave us children. There were 16 of us. My mother was a war bride. She was Catholic. And she herself had a mental illness. I don't know. She loved being pregnant. And she just kept having baby. I literally had 18 siblings. But they would leave us in a home without electricity, without water, without food for weeks at a time until finally the neighbor or somebody would call CPS and the police, and they would come and take us out of the home and put us in a foster home. I was in and out of foster homes my entire life. My first stint in a mental institution was at age 13. I was 13 years old the first time I was in a mental institution. And that was very scary, to be 13 and be locked in this humongous mental institution. But, you know, Amberlynn Reid can go to a psychiatrist one time and be diagnosed as bipolar. One time. Or 3, 4, 15. My true, honest belief is that you need to be hospitalized. You need to be hospitalized while you're manic, and you need to be hospitalized while you're depressed. And then they have to do a long assessment on you to watch you, to see how you behave. And like I said before in my other videos, it took years. Well, it took about 2 years before I got the diagnosis of bipolar, because I was in and out of mental institutions and jail. So, you know, they knew something was wrong with me. And it, you know, I think it was 2 years I got the diagnosis. But of course, I was in denial. Didn't believe it. I wholeheartedly did not believe that I was bipolar. I thought there was nothing wrong with me. I believed that it was everyone else. I was normal. Everyone else was, you know, just wrong. My sister was an RN, and she told me I was bipolar. I didn't believe her. But it's like the childhood thing, Amberlynn Reid likes to bring that up for sympathy points. I had a horrible childhood. My father died when I was 9 or 10. I can't remember because I was so young, but I was 9 or 10. He died on my sister's birthday. And then my grandmother died on my birthday that same year. And so I lost my father. I had a stepfather, but he was an alcoholic and very abusive. Very, very abusive. And we were in and out of foster homes. There was only one foster home that was good to me and my sister. The rest of my siblings were farmed out to different foster homes. We didn't all go to the same foster home. We went to different foster homes, because one foster home cannot keep 16 children. Well, actually, by then, my older siblings were moved out and married and had kids of their own, and they would try their very best to get custody of us, but sometimes the system doesn't work that way, and they just can't get you. They can't fight the system. They don't have the money for an attorney, but my sisters would go to court and beg for custody of us younger children. And then as far as raped and molested, I was molested more times than I can count when I was growing up. And I was also raped 3 times. I was raped 3 times. By the second time I was raped, I didn't even go to the police. I went to a clinic and got tested for diseases. Got the morning after pill. And I was given an HIV test for a year. But I wouldn't even report it to the police. The clinic told me that they, by law, had to report it. And I told them, go ahead and report it, but I'm not going to stick around and talk to the police because I was in Memphis and they are corrupt. They are so corrupt. The first time I was raped by a strange man, I literally was traumatized. I called the police and they told me that they were going to put me in jail if I didn't tell them what room. I was at a hotel. If I didn't tell them what room the rapist was staying in. I didn't know what room he was staying in. It was a Holiday Inn, and this is back in 1999. This was literally a few weeks after my mother died. And I was going downstairs to get a pack of cigarettes. And I was crying because my then husband and I had an argument. He left me in Memphis alone by myself. And I went downstairs to get a pack of cigarettes. And there was at that time in Holiday Inn, there was a bar that would stay open till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. There was a man sitting on a bench. I didn't think nothing of him. I was in my own misery. My mother had just died. She had just been murdered, and I was crying. And I asked him for a light. He gave me a light. I didn't think nothing else of it. I got on the elevator, so did he, and he followed me. And as soon as I didn't look behind me, I didn't know he was behind me. As soon as I put my card in the slot to open the door, he pushed me through the door. And you can use your imagination, but I'll tell you, he put a cigarette out on my neck. He tortured me for hours and hours in that hotel room. I did not believe that I was going to live. Somehow I tricked him into letting me go to the bathroom, and the bathroom door was right next to the front door where you walk out. I opened that door and I started running, and I was butt naked, no clothes on, and I ran all the way to the front desk begging them to call the police. When the police came, they treated me so horrible. They treated me so bad, and they threatened to put me in jail. From then on out, after that, I never would call the police. Ever. I never called the police again. I just dealt with it. But, I put myself in harm's way, I guess, by going downstairs crying, wanting a light from myself. It wasn't my fault. I have to keep telling myself that. It wasn't my fault. He was a monster. And I believe with all my heart that he had intentions of killing me. I do not believe that he intended on letting me live. I really don't. I believe he was going to kill me. But Amberlynn Reid thinks that she's lived through trauma. She doesn't know trauma. If she wants to, find out about trauma, she can watch my video. And I'm not over dramatizing. In fact, I'm leaving a lot of things out because I don't think it'll be appropriate for YouTube. And I'm just leaving a lot of things out. But also, when I was 19, I placed a baby for adoption. I was young. The father walked out and left me. And so I felt like I was so broke. I was so poor. I didn't feel like I had the money to take care of this baby. Although I loved it and I wanted this baby so bad, I just did not have the means to take care of this baby. I could barely feed myself, my sister. We were barely surviving. Literally barely surviving. And so I placed the baby for adoption. And that was really one of the hardest things I ever had to do in my life, was put that baby up for adoption. I cried and mourned that baby like it had died. My arms literally ached. And when I went back to the doctor and told him my arms were aching, he told me that was very common for women that put their babies up for adoption, or women that lose babies to stillbirth, that their arms will ache. It's a psychological problem. But this is a very long video, so I'm going to end it. I want you to know that I love you very, very much. Please stay safe. And if you are bipolar, please don't ever stop taking your medicine. And if it's not the right medicine, if it's not the right medicine, go back to your doctor and you keep trying until you find the right medicine. They have new medicines out now that are wonderful. They're not like the old medicines. They're really good medicines. I have not had an episode in 4 years. So there is hope now. There's hope. And whatever you do, do not kill yourself. It's a permanent solution for a temporary problem. If you give yourself a few days and go see a psychiatrist, or go have yourself put into a mental institution, I promise you, it does get better. Take it from me. I know it gets better. But Amberlynn Reid, please stop using the mental health community as a crutch. I don't believe you have bipolar, and I seriously don't. Especially not after you going to the same psychiatrist that your girlfriend goes to, and you've only gone 1 or 3 or 4 or 5 times. I don't see how in the world they could accurately diagnose you with bipolar, OCD. And then what happened to your binge eating disorder? You left that out. What did you just get cured? But this is 43 minutes long, so I'm going to end it. I love you guys so much, and there will be more videos coming up, and I will have different clothes on. I shot these videos all in one night. Thank you and good night. I love you. Bye. Guys, be careful.